At exactly 2:19 a.m. UTC, something unimaginable happened. Multiple orbital observatories across the globe simultaneously recorded an anomaly that, just moments ago, was confined to theoretical models and speculative simulations. In less than 1 minute, Earth's orbital environment dramatically changed, an event no one could have predicted. Ground-based telescopes in Chile, satellite arrays above the Pacific, and deep space monitoring stations all confirmed the same astonishing event. What they witnessed was a rapidly expanding ring of reflective particulate matter forming a perfect structure around Earth. This structure, eerily similar to the ring system around Saturn, was no sensor glitch. It was real, and at the center of it all was the cosmic object 3 Atlas, a ring around Earth, not just any ring, but one with a unique composition, billions of ice particles aligned in a precise flattened disk, rotating at speeds that suggested the stability of a planetary ring system. If you're wondering how this could happen, how Earth could suddenly acquire a ring system, the answer is simple. It shouldn't have. This anomaly has no explanation. The data is undeniable. Scientists initially assumed it was a mistake, some sort of observational error. But the evidence grew clearer with each passing moment. From infrared scans by the James Webb Space Telescope to thermal readings from Earth's orbit, it became clear Earth had acquired something truly unprecedented. As this discovery unfolded, the first confirmation came from NASA's Deep Space Network and the European Space Agency's orbital surveillance platforms. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile detected a massive spike in sub-millimeter emissions around Earth's exosphere energy signatures that are typically associated with active comet fragmentation. Yet Earth is not a comet. We've never seen anything like this. And yet, there it was, impossible to ignore. The most shocking part was when researchers examined the composition of the material forming this strange structure. What they discovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The ice particles making up the structure were composed mainly of water ice, with traces of silicates and organic compounds, exactly what you'd expect from interstellar objects like 3I Atlas. It wasn't just random debris, it was purposeful. The ring wasn't just forming, it was being shaped by something. And that something was none other than 3I Atlas. Within hours, the structure grew, stabilizing into a thin, faint, yet unmistakably circular ring. But here's the kicker. Earth doesn't have the gravity to sustain such a structure. So how was it happening? How did this ring form in under 4 hours? The more data came in, the more questions arose. The puzzle pieces didn't fit together. A perfect circle of ice in orbit, self-regulating, moving as though guided by some invisible force. It wasn't chaos, it was precision. It was something no known law of physics could explain. Theories began to surface. Some scientists, like Dr. Elias Vin from Caltech, suggested a rare natural event. Perhaps 3? Atlas had undergone a catastrophic fragmentation, releasing a cloud of material that was somehow captured by Earth's magnetosphere and organized into a ring. The conditions required for this were astronomically rare, a 1 in a million chance. But even this theory couldn't fully explain the precision with which the particles were organized. Enter Dr. Liana Kovac, a researcher working with the European Space Network. She proposed a far more disturbing idea. What if this ring wasn't an accident? What if it was constructed? Her simulation revealed a disturbing possibility. A system capable of manipulating particle trajectories at the micro level could build such a stable ring in under 6 hours. But for such a system to exist, it would require massive energy. Energy beyond anything we've seen before, and intelligence. The structure was too perfect to be random. It wasn't just stable, it was symmetrically flawless, down to the smallest detail. But why? Why would something go through such an effort to construct a ring around Earth? The debate over how this event could have happened took a new turn when a pulse was detected. At exactly 7:03 p.m. UTC, the ring emitted a burst of electromagnetic energy spanning frequencies from radio to ultraviolet. This pulse lasted 0.7 seconds, and it wasn't just a random signal. Every satellite in low Earth orbit experienced momentary disruptions, navigation errors, GPS failures, and even gyroscopic drift were recorded. On the ground, radio communications briefly flickered. But the most important revelation came from the pulse itself. Hidden within the burst was a pattern, a sequence that was undeniably structured prime numbers. This was no coincidence. As if that wasn't enough to stir suspicion, things began to escalate. The ring started to shift. Sections of the structure began to brighten, forming arcs of increased reflectivity that rotated independently of each other. The entire ring became dynamic. It wasn't just a static formation anymore. It was responding to something. And then, in a terrifying twist, one section of the ring disappeared. A segment about 1,200 kilometers long simply vanished. No energy spike, no debris field. It was as if that part of the ring had never existed. The disappearance was instantaneous, and the gravitational models adjusted as if the mass was never there. The system adapted as if this was all part of the plan. Around the world, control rooms fell silent. Agencies like NASA, ESA, and private aerospace networks began communicating behind closed doors. No public statements were made. There was no rush to announce the truth. Instead, everyone was watching, analyzing, and waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the moment when they would realize the truth. We weren't just observing a natural phenomenon. We were witnessing something far more profound. The effects weren't limited to just the satellites and scientific instruments. Subtle, but global, effects started showing up on Earth. Magnetometers detected tiny fluctuations in Earth's magnetic field, small but noticeable. Migratory bird patterns changed suddenly. GPS systems had to be recalibrated every 17 minutes. And something else happened. A faint luminous band appeared in the night sky. It wasn't visible to the naked eye at first, but it was there, a faint halo reflecting sunlight surrounding the Earth. This band was the visible manifestation of what had been happening in orbit. Earth had become a ringed world, and we couldn't explain it. We had no framework for understanding what was happening, only the knowledge that something extraordinary was unfolding. Theories were being proposed, but each one failed to explain the larger truth. Because this wasn't an accident, this was intentional. And when you realize that, the question shifts from what is happening to why is it happening? By this point, the world had begun to change, and not in ways we expected. Something intelligent, purposeful, had set these events in motion. But who or what could that be? What did this ring mean? Was it a message, an invitation, an experiment? The more data came in, the less clear the situation became. But one thing was certain. Earth was no longer just a planet in the cosmos. We were now a participant in something far greater. In the days that followed, the global scientific community was forced to come to terms with the reality of the situation. Researchers from across the world scrambled to develop new models, new frameworks, to make sense of the unprecedented event unfolding around Earth. But there was one fundamental problem. Nothing made sense. The data didn't fit into any known paradigm. Theories were suggested, then discarded. For one, Dr. Kovach's hypothesis gained more attention. If this wasn't a random event, if this ring was indeed a construct, then it raised another, more troubling question. Who or what could be behind such a massive undertaking? And why Earth? The ring was not merely a cosmic anomaly. It was a deliberate act of creation. The materials, the structure, the symmetry, it was all too precise to be a natural occurrence. And it all pointed back to one object. 3I Atlas. Was it a message from another civilization? A beacon? Or was this an isolated event, something far beyond our understanding? The mystery deepened when gravitational modeling from astrophysicists confirmed that the ring was not stable by chance. It was being held in place by forces that should not exist in such a system. The particles were too organized, the velocities too synchronized. This wasn't something that could happen by accident. But the mystery wasn't just about the ring. It was about the object at its center. 3I, Atlas had behaved erratically in the hours leading up to the formation of the ring. The strange deceleration, the thermal anomalies, the electromagnetic pulses, all of it pointed to something far beyond a simple interstellar object. There was intelligence involved. A decision was being made somewhere, and that decision was shaping the very nature of our planet. As more data arrived, the implications became even clearer. The ring wasn't just an object of interest, it was a demonstration of something. A power, a force, a presence far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. But what did it want? What message was it sending? And what would happen next? These were the questions that consumed the minds of scientists, government agencies, and ordinary citizens alike, and the answers were elusive. The days continued to pass, but the mystery surrounding the ring and 3I Atlas only deepened. The structure around Earth remained stable and unyielding, as though it was waiting for something. Scientists were on edge, trying to piece together the puzzle of the ring's formation, its purpose, and its implications. One thing was certain: Earth had been changed forever. The system was still active, still responding, still evolving, and then, late one evening, the next data point came in. The ring was beginning to contract. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the inner edge of the structure was moving closer to Earth's atmosphere. At a rate of just 0.6 kilometers per hour, it seemed insignificant at first, but the precision of the motion was unnerving. If this continued, the ring would eventually intersect with low-orbit satellites, and then the atmosphere itself. What would happen if it did? What could we expect when the structure reaches Earth? The mystery was far from over. In fact, it was only beginning. The answers were out there, waiting to be uncovered. But they would require more than just scientific analysis. They would require a new way of thinking, a new understanding of the universe, and perhaps a new understanding of ourselves. So as we continue to observe, analyze, and wait, we must ask ourselves, what is this message? What does it mean? And what will happen when it reaches us? If you want to stay updated on this unfolding mystery, subscribe now, because this is only the beginning. This is just the first chapter of a story that is far from over.